Well, good morning. We're looking here at Proverbs 23, 29 to 35. It's a number of verses that we're looking at today, and this is saying number 18. It deals with the folly of drunkenness. And because the passage is so long, so many verses, there's not going to be a whole lot of commentary on it because it really is self-explanatory. But I want to read through it with you and talk about just a few points. He says, "Who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has strife? Who has complaining? Who has wounds without cause? Who has redness of eyes?" And so the question is, who has all of these things? Who has woes and sorrow and strife and complaining and wounds without a cause, redness of the eyes? Think about that. Who goes through these things? Who has all kinds of problems? Who has sorrow upon sorrow? Who has total complaining because everything is going wrong, and redness of the eyes because of bodily affliction? And wounds without a cause. So sometimes because of actions that other people have done to you, or things that you've done not knowing. It is those, it answers in verse 30, those who tarry long over wine, those who go to try mixed wine. In other words, this is the strong drink. This is the strong drink that he's saying. Those who labor after liquor. Those who are in love with intoxication. Just look at their life. The people who are, even people who seem successful, who have an addiction to alcohol, their life is filled with woes and strife and wounds. How many people have been killed due to drunk driving, and how many people have destroyed their lives, their families over this, and strife and men beating women when they're drunk, and all of these things causing strife and pain and sorrow because of these things. We see that nothing good comes from strong drink. So he gives an encouragement, actually more than encouragement, a command. He says, "Do not look at wine when it is red, when it sparkles in the cup and goes down smoothly." Says, don't look upon drinking as a glorified thing. When you see those commercials, when you see those people doing this on TV and it's all glorified, as has been said so many times by so many other people, what they don't show is the man getting drunk and beating his wife. What they don't show you is the throwing up in the middle of the night with your head in the toilet. What they don't show you is you losing your job for the 5th time. You know how many people get fired after being involved with this, and then going to get help, and then coming back, and then getting fired again? So many people. So many people. I heard about that not too long ago. And so many people getting involved in believing lies because there's a cool spin that is put on it. He says, don't do this. He says, the reason, verse 31, is, in the end, it bites like a serpent and stings like an adder. You see, he says, in the end, it's not going to bring you the pleasure that you thought. In the end, it's going to bring you nothing but pain. Pain and stinging. He goes on to describe what some of these things are. Verse 33 and following, he says, your eyes will see strange things, and your heart will utter perverse things. In other words, you'll see things that really aren't there. Your heart will speak perverse things. You know, out of the heart man speaks. A clear mind tells a person when your heart is saying something, wants to say something. Your clear mind says, stop. If you say that, you're going to get fired. Stop. If you say that, you're going to regret it. Stop. If you say that, this relationship is over. But a mind that is filled and controlled by alcohol, it just flows out. Just flows out. It says, your eyes will see strange things, your heart will utter perverse things. Here he says in verse 34, you will be like one who lies down in the midst of the sea, like one who lies on the top of a mast. Now, you think about the ship, and there it is going, and you kind of go up to the top of the mast. You know, that, first of all, is not a very safe place to be, is it? It's not. If you're on the sea and the ship is going back and forth and you're up there, that is not a safe and stable, secure place for you to be resting. And he says, but that's what you're going to be like. You're going to be one who lies down in the midst of the sea. Doesn't make sense. Not a good place to be. There's no security. You're going to drown. Okay? And so here he says, in verse 35, they struck me, you will say, but I was not hurt. They beat me, but I did not feel it. When shall I awake? I must have another drink. Notice what he says here. He says, they're going to say, oh, they beat me, they did this, and when can I awake? Get out of this. And then when you do, you're going to say, oh, let's go through it again. In other words, you're not going to learn. It's like a dog returning to its vomit over and over. You're gonna fall into it, be abused by the alcohol, and then he says you're going to wake up, regret it, and then repeat it. So you're going to get drunk, you're going to be abused, regret, and repeat. He says this isn't the way to live. This isn't the way to live. You know, God has a much better way to live. A much a greater way to find fulfillment and joy. And that is found, instead of being filled, being controlled by wine, drunkenness, instead of Jack Daniels controlling you, allowing the Spirit of God to control you. That's what he says in Ephesians 5:18. To don't be drunk with wine, but rather be filled with the Spirit. The idea of being filled is to be controlled by. We know that for when we say someone is filled with anger, filled with rage. They're controlled by their rage. They're controlled by their anger. And he says to not allow this to happen. So I want to encourage you to rather be intoxicated with drink, to be intoxicated with the Word, to allow it to control you. Because whereas there is regret with the drink, there is relief and joy with the Word. God made you. You were not made to escape God. You were made to embrace God. So I hope that you will take this not as a joy killer, but as a joy filler. One that fills you with joy to know the one and true living God, to walk with Him, to have the rest and peace of knowing Him, and to find the joy that He was made for you to have in knowing Him. I hope this is an encouragement to you, and that the Lord will richly bless you today.